विदिशा एग
यूट्यूब, यहाँ पे रिफ्रेश,
यहाँ ही जाऊंगा कमेंट
यहाँ पे यूट्यूब एक व्हाट्सएप लॉगिन करना पड़ेगा।
हाँ
सेशन विल बी स्टार्ट सून, ऐसा एक मैसेज डाल दो, मेरे मोबाइल से डाल दो।
बस ऐसे चालू कर दो ना ज्वाइन करके इधर इसको ज्वाइन ना कर
नहीं नहीं, 5 मिनट में उसकी स्ट्रीम लेती हूँ, फिर तब तक वो यूट्यूब पे दिखता है ना, लोगों को नहीं दिखेगा। ज्वाइन नाउ,
गूगल
ये वाली लिंक डे 5, ये वाली लिंक फॉरवर्ड करनी है।
उसका ओपन रखा है ना होस्ट कंट्रोल
आप दूसरा मोबाइल लेने वाले थे ना?
लेके आ रही है हाँ ओपन रखो तभी कोई नहीं जाने और ये माइक और वीडियो बंद कर दो लोगों का माइक और वीडियो दोनों बंद रखो नीचे नीचे
ये डे 5 का लाइव नहीं आया अभी तक यहाँ पे।
ना मेरे कंटेंट इधर आएगा लाइव
फिर से रिफ्रेश करूँ?
नहीं आएगा लाइव पे क्लिक करो ये रहा ना लाइव इसका लिंक साइड रखना पड़ेगा इसको चार्जिंग में बेबी आपको मोबाइल सिर्फ नहीं देखना है ना आपको दूध भी पीना है मम्मा को काम करना था अपन पापा के साथ चलो पापा चाय पी ले
सगळे रिकाम टेकडे लोग जो खाना नहीं बना रहे ये यहाँ पे ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं अभी। वो निधिलाल मैम ने किया क्या ज्वाइन? उनको होस्ट करना होगा ना, वो बाद में करेंगे।
इसको बोलो कल्याणी
हाँ हाँ, कल्याणी ज्वाइन भी हो गई। इसको होस्ट कर दूँ? हेलो कल्याणी मैम. हेलो कल्याणी मैम, आर यू देयर?
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ.
Should I start?
नो, निधिलाल मैम अभी तक ज्वाइन नहीं हुए.
ठीक है. We'll start once she'll join.
अभी वो अभी क्या करना बाकी है उसको हाँ ले ली. तो ये अभी स्क्रीनशॉट निकालने के लिए. हॅलो. हो हो येत होतं. नहीं की नहीं मैंने. कल कल 12:30 तक 12 से चला. वहां से हम निकले तो लाइन चली गई. जैसे नीचे तब वैसे लाइन चली गई. फिर बाद में 12:30 मीटिंग थी लेडीज फैकल्टी की. वो मीटिंग अटेंड की और 1 बजे पता चला कि घर जाना है. हाँ तो 1 बजे फिर कहा नहीं यहाँ से कहा हो जाएगा क्या. लेकिन लाइन इन्वर्टर क्यों. और वो जो है ना स्ट्रीमिंग हमें ये कट करना है ना यूट्यूब वाला. यूट्यूब का ये. हम्म, यहाँ पे इतना स्ट्रीमिंग अच्छा है. इतनी दिख रही स्क्रीन. और कट नीचे से थोड़ा कम करो. नीचे से ऊपर करो. ये इतना. हाँ नहीं नीचे से ऊपर करो. नीचे नीचे का कट रहा थोड़ा. कितना लोग जिसकी जरूरत है नीचे का कट रहा है ना. बस इतना चाहिए. देखो पर अगर हाँ, वो नीचे का कटवाते हैं ना तभी वो इधर की स्क्रीन जाती है. हम्म, बस हाँ आगे. हाँ पोस्ट कर दो उसको. हो गया. 10:30 हो ही गए. अच्छा हो गया. हाँ ये साथी. हाँ कल्याणी स्टार्ट कर दो. हाँ 31 31 पार्टिसिपेंट ही ऐसे. हाँ हाँ टेस्ट कर देने का. स्टार्ट रिकॉर्डिंग.
Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of PR Pote Patil, College of Engineering and Management, for 1 week online STTP on research proposal writing and AI tools in education and research, organized by the Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. Today, as we've all come to the last day of our session, I would like to introduce our today's guest, Dr. Kumari Nidhi Lal. She is currently working as assistant professor in Vishwesvaraya National Institute of Technology, Nagpur, Maharashtra. Ma'am has completed her BTech in IT from Gautam Buddha Technical University. M.Tech in IT from Triple IT Allahabad, and PhD in CSE from NIT Allahabad. Ma'am has done significant work in various areas, which includes artificial intelligence in networking, 5G network beam management, wireless communication and analytics, neural network and deep learning, and blockchain technology. I would like to give special mentions that ma'am have two patents under her name. First goes by the title IoT based automated rail track inspection trolley, and second is 5G based network hub. Along with this, ma'am also had done significant work in the field of research with paper publications, book chapters, and conferences. The list is long, so without further ado, I would welcome Dr. Kumari Nidhi Lal and request her to share her knowledge with us. Please, ma'am. Hello. Hello.
Hello, ma'am. I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome to the panel, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. So, should I start the session?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Is my screen visible?
No, ma'am. Now it is visible. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, all of you. My name is Dr. Kumari Nidhi Lal. As the name already introduced me, I am assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering, VNIT Nagpur. So, the today's topic of the presentation is ethics in research and research formulation. So, in the previous section, also research related to the AI tools have already discussed, but along with that, we need to know about the ethics. Ethics means what should we do and what should not we do in the research formulation, and when we are trying to implement a problem statement and the publication, what the things we have to taken care of in our mind. That things we will discuss in our today's session. So basically, in the today's lecture, we will discuss about the ethics. So, what is the research ethics basically? The research ethics, as per the definition defined in the PPT, it is the planning, conduct, and reporting of the research. So, ethics is basically made up of three things: planning, conduct, and reporting. So, planning means prototype implementing. Before formulating the problem statement, we have to first plan all the things related to the implementation. Then the conduct. Conduct means how we have to implement in terms of the coding and the publication, and reporting of the research. So research is incomplete until you do not publish any research paper, if you're not filing any patent. So reporting of the research is also very necessary part when you are doing a particular experiment. Now, protection of humans and animal subject is one of the major important research ethics. If you saw one of the documentary that is published over the, I don't know exactly remember, in the Amazon Prime or the Netflix, there is a one web series regarding uh, vaccine of the COVID-19. And the trials are basis first we have to use that trials over the animal subjects, and that animals is nothing but the monkeys we have to be collaborated from the forest, and there is some procedure going to be there because they have to take the consent from the animal department and the forest department, and that's why the trial of the vaccine is delayed to be some time, because the protection of the humans and animal subjects is one of the major rule when we are trying to implement our experiment and the research in the area of biomedical. But, however, not all the researchers use human or animal subjects. Not all the ethical dimensions of the research confine me solely to the protections for research subjects. So, if you are doing a research in the biomedical field, like the cancer detection, diabetes detection, or any drug discovery, and uh, and you can say drug using AI finding, so that type of thing related to the consent from the biomedical department, because the trials we have to do over the human and the animal subjects. So that is the most important ethics when you are doing the research in the healthcare department. Now, the second one is collection, use, and interpretation of the research data. So, collection is what? Collection is nothing but basically before defining a problem statement, we need to collect the data as well as we need to collect the research papers, means the literature survey you have to do. More and more literature survey you will done, more and more findings you will get, and more findings you will get, then you can better interpret of your research data, better interpret of your research findings. So collection, use, and interpretation of the research data is the second ethics. But what the ethics here the role plays, because some of the data is not publicly available, some of the data needs permission to access, as well as some of the literature, as well as some of the patents and copyrights need some consent from the published author or publishing site. So that consent you have to take before download and before collect any of the data, any of the research paper, any of the patent. Otherwise, it will be considered against the research ethics. Now, the third one is methods for reporting and reviewing research plans or findings. So once your literature survey is done, implementation is now going to complete, then there can be numerous methods are available to report your research, as well as you can review your research plans or findings, such that you can publish one conference paper and get the review from the audience as well as the reviewers. Second method, you can publish a Scopus Index Journal or SCI paper. Third one, you can file a patent, or so many things. You can file a copyright also. Else, you can deposit your research findings into one public available library, such that the readers can see that paper, readers can read that paper and provide you a valuable feedback. So these are the methods you can use in order to review your research plans as well as findings, but it should be in the ethical way. The fourth one is relationship between the researchers and those that will be affected by their research. Because if we are working over a research plan, obviously the research is not solely done by one person. The research will be cooperated by so many persons, that is called the research team. So it is very important that you have to maintain a good relationship among your colleagues as well as your research team, such that no any research ethics problem should be faced by you in the future. That we will see in our further slides what are the most problematic situations when there is a research team is working over a particular problem statement in the lab. Now the fourth one is means for responding to misunderstandings, disputes, or misconducts. So it might happening that due to some misunderstanding among the research teams, as well as can be any dispute happen or some misconduct happen, because in the real time situation somebody can know the rule and somebody cannot know about or not having awareness about the rules. So in this case, if there is a misunderstanding happen, dispute happen, or anyhow misconduct happen, then how can you respond in terms of the research ethics according to the Indian patent or Indian research law? So the first important thing that is about the authorship, because when a research team is about to write a research paper, then the first problem statement that they have to face, that is the credit and the responsibility. As you know, in the research paper there is a list of authors: first author, second author, third author, and so many authors. So the main problem is who will be the first author, who will be the second, who will be third, and who will be fourth. Because in the research all the members of the team are working equally. If it is the case, if all the team members are working equally, then what will be the credit and the responsibility according to the research ethics? So while the list of authors identifies those who deserve credit for the work being published, like as you know that the first author will be the only one person that have the most credit over the work. right, as compared to the another research team members. But what about when they have equal credit system, like all the team members of the research team having equally collaborated in order to complete the work? So that thing, that responsibility should be taken care before publishing the research paper or before writing the research paper. So that thing have to be documented, like the part should be divided among within the authors and according to the part covered and the responsibility covered, they have to. हाँ हाँ चालू रहने दीजिए, मुझे बता देना फिर बंद करना होगा। हाँ मैं 12:30 बजे तक हूँ यहाँ, 12:30 बजे नहीं 12:30 बजे तक। हाँ ठीक है मुझे बता देना। जी जी बिल्कुल। So we have to maintain the integrity and the quality of the work also when we are going to provide the credit and the responsibility to each of the authors within the paper. Now who should be an author? I'm not talking about the first author, second author, third author. The second point is basically mentioned who should be an author, because an authorship is a matter of public credit and the responsibility, because you are going to publish your research paper in a platform that is accessed by all over the world. So it is a whole public credit and the responsibility part of you. So those and only those who have meet accepted criteria for authorship should be included as an author. According to the research ethics, a person who made any collaboration, who made any contribution to the research will be allowed as an author. But many of the cases we can see that due to some personal relationship like the husband wife, or you can say any colleague relationship or friend relationship, we are including their names in our paper, right? So this is against the research ethics. So according to the research ethics, what will be the author? The author will be only those one
Hello, ma'am.
who have. Yes. Yes.
Hello, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt. Actually, the
Yes.
slides are not changing.
Slide is not changing.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the slides which you have presented is not changing actually, according to the topic.
Now, now,
Not yet, ma'am. Sorry.
1 second.
Yeah, it just got changed. अभी तुम हमारे सामने बाहर नहीं है।
Now,
Yes, ma'am. Your screen is visible.
slide is visible.
Ma'am, it's a folder. The screen is visible here is a folder one, not a presentation one. मम्मी आवाज नका येऊ मग कॅमेरा.
Okay, so I am sharing my Google screen now.
Still not, ma'am. Yeah.
Visible.
Yes, ma'am. It is.
Okay, so now I'm changing my slide. You can see.
Yes, ma'am. It is working right.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. I'm making full screen.
Okay, okay.
Now, the third point is transparency. Research groups and collaborators should be clear about the criteria and the plans for the authorship. Individual scientists should discuss authorship during the planning of any collaboration and continue those discussions as the research project involves. So, here the transparency means whatever the research team is working over an experiment or the research work, there is a need of collaborators also, because the collaborators are the only one who are making the fundings in order to pursue the research in a more and a next stage. So that's why we have to maintain some criteria and the plans for the authorship. If you are taking the help from any collaborators, including the scientist means outside your organization, and also you have to discuss the authorship criteria, that after the completion of the work, which person has to be allowed to be included in the publication details of the authorship, as well as if you want to include author from the collaborator also, then you should also discuss with them prior to the publication, prior to writing on the research paper in a documented way. Now we are just going to the next slide, that is the contribution ship. So this contribution ship I will not explain in a more theory, because the theory is quite boring. So there is a one case study such that you can better visualize and you can better understand that what I am trying to say with the help of this example. So this case study says that there is a one lady that is called Suzanne, and it is recruited as a postdoctoral to a laboratory where the research is centered on the cell biology, means biomedical system. She is doing the research over the postdoc, and Suzanne's training has been in gene cloning and molecular genetics. In this lab, there is no such technology on the machines are available. So what the Suzanne Booth will do, Suzanne will completely trains a senior level graduate student. So senior level graduate student can be like the MTech 1 or the BTech 1, BTech 4th year, working in this group. So what the story till now, there is a one lady Suzanne who is a postdoctoral fellow in a laboratory, and she is doing the research over the molecular genetics. Now in the lab there is no such technology or the machines are available. So what she will do, she will take some senior level graduate student for help, and that graduate level student is working in her lab. Now, under the Suzanne supervision, the student proceeds to build a cDNA library and isolates it by molecular cloning a gene for a membranous protein. So, there was a problem statement in which some cloning of the gene from the membranous protein is done by that senior level graduate student. Now the work is getting completed, and after several months, one manuscript, means a research paper, is prepared for the submission. Now, who is the principal investigator? Principal investigator is nothing but the Professor Jake Taylor. So, who is the Professor Jake Taylor? Professor Jake Taylor is nothing but the guide of that post-doctoral fellow, that is the Suzanne. So, basically, the Suzanne guide name is Professor Jake Taylor, and the lab is running under the supervision of Professor Jake Taylor. So, the manuscript is prepared. Professor Jake Taylor is one of the principal investigator, as well as the senior level graduate student is listed one of the co-author. But what is the problem over there? The problem is in the manuscript, Suzanne is not mentioned in one of the author. So Suzanne has no authorship in this paper. Only the principal investigator, that is the Jake Taylor, as well as that senior level graduate student will be as a author and the co-authors, but the Suzanne is listed in the acknowledgement section of the paper. Now the Suzanne is very upset and very disappointed, and she go ahead with the Dr. Taylor and have a word with him. So Taylor said that he has a strict rule about authorship, and the Suzanne's contribution was a technical one, and that does not merit authorship. So what the Taylor said, Taylor having some document about the research ethics about the authorship, that whenever the experiment is done, whenever there is a manuscript is prepared, that on which basis you will include a person as an author in the manuscript. So that Taylor basically quotes from several different standards of conduct and document, indicating that authorship must be strictly based on intellectual and conceptual contribution, not the technical one. So basically, the Suzanne contribution is the technical one. It is not about the intellectual, because the writing of the paper is done by that student. Conceptual contribution is done by the Dr. Taylor. So the Suzanne contribution is only the technical one. So technical assistance basically. Okay, you are only the Suzanne is doing assistant to that student. There is no individual contribution over that work. So on the basis of that, Dr. Taylor rejected to consider Suzanne as an author in the manuscript. So, from this case study, we have learned that before going to publish, before going to writing any manuscript, or before going to be work within an organization or in some collaboration, just have a word with your colleagues, word with your team member, and prepare one document regarding to the research ethics with a reference of the Indian research laws references. And before preparing of the manuscript, just described that on which basis the authorship will be given to each of the research team members. Now the considerations. What are the considerations you have to make when you are going to prepare one research ethic document regarding the authorship? So first one is the credit. Credit, you have to mention first criteria. Credit in terms of the first author, second author, third author, because there is a points. The first author having a larger point. So according to the credit, first you have to talk with your colleague or your research team that according to what contribution the credit will be given to first author or the second author, who will be the first author and the second author, and so on. Second one is the responsibility. So this will not be done like the first author who is giving very less responsibility but giving as a name of the first author. So according to the research experiment, what are the modules wise responsibility to each of the members of the team, that should also maintain in the research ethics document. Now the variable criteria. The variable criteria is nothing but like in a research work, there might be a possibility that we have to take a help from the outside, or we have to take a help from your other research team members. So in this way, some of the criteria can be variable. Minimal criteria. So what will be the minimal criteria when you are considered in a research team and you are claiming as yourself to be one of the author in the manuscript? Now the acknowledgement. There is a very important term over the acknowledgement. If you are taking the help from some funding agency, some outside organization colleagues or some friends, then make sure that you have doing acknowledgement for them in your manuscript before the reference section. Now the collaboration. So it certainly implies two or more people having joined together for a common purpose, but this might involve almost any arrangement of shared time, work, resources, unique materials, data, ideas, or money. So this collaboration, like one academic institute is making the collaboration with industrial organization, right? So academic institute is making the collaboration of industrial organization. So what are the sharing of the things? Sharing of the things like shared time, as well as work will be shared, as well as resources can be shared, some unique materials or the machines can be shared, some data can be provided by the industry to academic organization, some ideas or the concepts can be provided by the academic to industrial, as well as some money. Means in terms of funding, the industry can provide some funding to the academic to do some research. So these type of collaborations you can do. So this is one of the example in which academic are making the collaboration with the industry. But there can be another example like interdisciplinary research, and the faculty of the computer science can be collaborated with faculty of the ECE department or some basic science department. Like this way the collaboration can also be done. So once the work is completed, credit and responsibility might then be shared in a number of ways. Yes, right? We can see in our previous case study also that once the work is completed, we have to provide the credit as well as we have to allot the responsibility in a number of ways. So what the collaborator will do, collaborator can be made by some misunderstanding of what is to be provided by each of the participants, unhappiness with a slow collaborator, disagreement about what and when to publish, or conflicts regarding authorship and credit. So when you are doing a work in a collaboration way, this can be mishappenings will be with you. There might be some cases like unhappiness will be some slow collaborator, like the some of the you are mailing some queries to a collaborator, but the collaborator is very much busy in some another work, and he and she is giving you a reply after 10 to 15 days later. So there will be a slow process and you are not happy with the collaborator. As well as disagreement about what and when to publish. Sometimes some collaborators are very open to publish the research things as well as some outcomes in the public platform environment. Some collaborators are not comfortable to provide their research outcomes in a public platform. So this type of disagreement can be done about when to publish, and conflicts regarding the authorship and credit. It might be a case that industry persons can claim itself as a first author because they are providing funding to you, right? So this type of conflicts can be there. So it is better that you have to make a document before making collaboration with any industry or some other departments. Interdisciplinary research. Now we have another case too, because we have to understand about what is the story behind it and what is the motive that we are trying to learn from this different points. So this case study is very much interesting. So there is a one couple, that is Bill and Sarah is one couple. So they meet in a introductory graduate course. Over the span of the upcoming academic year, they fall in love and get married. At the beginning of the second year, they select different mentors in the same department and begin their dissertation research. So we can consider as an MTech course. So first year they have just fall in love and get married, and at the second year they have choose different mentors in order to pursue their research. And the mentors and their groups frequently collaborate and co-author publications. So there is a good relationship between their mentors. So they are frequently collaborate with each other and do some co-author publications. So both Bill and Sarah work extremely hard, but frequently has Bill helped her in her lab. So both are means a hardworking persons, but Sarah need help and Bill obviously help her as a husband. On weekends, they are commonly seen working together doing experiments which are exclusively part of Sarah research project. So basically, Bill have doing so much effort and so much help over the Sarah research project. And after the course completion of the year, Sarah prepares six senior authored manuscripts. So six is a very large number. Six authored manuscripts Sarah has prepared, and all are published in a peer-reviewed journals. So what are the peer-reviewed journal that we will discuss in our further slides? So Bill is not included as an author. So Sarah has prepared the manuscript. Bill is helped Sarah in all of the research, but the Sarah will do. Sarah is not included Bill as one of the author. But what the Sarah will do? Sarah is acknowledged in five of them. So out of six, in five of the paper, Bill has acknowledged in the acknowledgement section before the references. Now, in her last year in the program, Sarah wins the graduate student honors because obviously she has six research papers in a peer reviewed journal, and also she is selected by the departmental level faculty to receive the Outstanding Graduate Student Annual Award. Also, because of its extraordinary contribution in the research, Sarah has been offered a permanent position in a biotechnological company. Bin is not likely to finish with his desertion research anytime soon because Bill is always busy to help the Sarah. So Bill is not taking care about his research, and he is not finished their thesis things in a more accurate time spanning way. And Bill has also not any publications abstract at the same name. So small group of graduate student meet with you, the departmental chair, and the bitterly complain that Sarah has had an unfair advantage during her graduate research career. So they claim her publication record is deceptive as it fails to account for the extra collaborative help. So I mention it with a double quotes. Extra collaborative help is taken care by the Sarah. So she received from her spouse. They claim both she and her mentor are partly to be inappropriate practices. So now the thing is, this case study is about to tell that Sarah is taking extra collaborative help from her husband. Sarah basically acknowledged the name of her husband in the acknowledgement section. But this case study will not be under the part of inappropriate practices. The reason is Sarah basically taking help from the bill and also acknowledged in the acknowledgement section. And the more important part is before doing the collaboration and taking the help from the bill, there is no research or research ethics document prepared by the Sarah and Bill that after the manuscript preparation, what will be the credit and responsibility and authorship of the research team. So Sarah is correct in her way. Bill is also correct in his way because Bill is doing the research help by in his own choice without any document. documentation. So make sure that you have made the documentation before going to help your colleagues, your friend, as well as your collaborative known persons. Now, what are the points that you have to be documented? The first one is for your area of research, what are some specific benefits you could gain from collaborating with others? What are the cost and what are the risk? So, if you are going to submit a project in a SERB or a DST, there is a particular headings that you have to write. The first one is like what are the cost, what are the risk management you will cover by using this project. So this type of things that you have to document in your research ethics document. Second point is what issues are most likely to cause disagreements among collaborators, like the credit and the authorship. Working in your research field, what problems, if any, are unique to your field of research. Third one is what steps can you take or recommend what would decrease the risk of miscommunication in future collaborations. Fourth one is what rules govern the transfer of material into and out of your institute. So there is a transfer of material means suppose you are going to publish one research paper SCI index journal and then you want to publish a patent. So there is a transfer of materials from your SCI journal, whatever the thing is, you have to transfer that materials to the industrial collaboration in order to file a patent. Authorship credit details in the guidelines that you have to make sure that to be documented in your research ethics document before the collaborating to your colleagues or the friend. Now these are the listed misconducts, research misconducts. Don't falsify your result. Don't fabricate your result. That things I will explain in my further slides. So just read the points. That kindly do not falsify your result, fabricate your result, don't plagiarize past work, don't violate intellectual property, don't manipulate your research record, do not open and transparent, do be open and transparent, and do acknowledge collaborators. So in the right hand side, there is a one story that I am telling you that there is a one lady that is Mazavo. The name is Mazavo. Is doing PhD research project. So the PhD research project is taken by her is nothing but it is basically scanning the water resources of the river. So there is a sample need to be collected by that research scholar. So another industrial person wants to give the data to this PhD research project to the Mazavo, but the Mazavo resign not taking that data from this industry person, that from the company, because it is a violation of intellectual property law. So basically if you are taking the data from a company, right, so at the first time you will be very happy that okay, the data will be with you, you can apply the AI tools over there, machine learning, deep learning, and you will get very beautiful and very good results, and you will publish a very nice paper. But the thing is it is against the research ethics. Why? Because if you are taking the data from a company, so company data is a sensitive data, right? So if a person is leaking the data of their company, so first you have to take the consent from that person that that company, his company is not having any issue, that the data is going to be with you for the research purpose. So that's why you have to deny it first, and you have to take the consent from the company that the company do not have any obligation when the data is shared with you. Now the mentoring. So what is the mentoring basically? So we faculties always mentor to our BTech students, MTech students, PhD students. So in the broad sense intended here, a mentor is somewhere who takes a special interest in helping another person develop into a successful professional. So, what are the expectations as per the advisor, and what are the expectation as per the student that we have to see? Because in the further slides, we are going to discuss about the research ethics when we are taking the step of mentorship. There is a research ethics also collaborated with the mentorship also. So, what the advisor will do? Advisor should do take responsibility of each of the students. Whatever the thing is, the advisor should communicate clearly to the student. Advisor should respect the time of the student, but because the student is so much work to their course works as well as some TA works, so respect the time of the student. Follow ethical research practices. when you are doing the research with your students or you are guiding the students, then you have to follow some research practices also. Be honest about mistakes. Maintain a healthy and scientifically sound lab environment. Now, what are the expectations from the student point of view? That the mentor should be a mentor but not a scientific advisor. Take into account the student individual needs and abilities, value their time. So we have to respect the time of each other. They have to follow the ethical research practices, respect the boundaries, maintain a healthy, safe, and unbiased lab environment. So, mentoring is nothing but should encompass ethical discussion about best research practices, including authorship, collaboration, conflict of authors, and data management, and more. So, basically, whatever the BTech students as well as MTech and the PhD students are coming into our guidance, so this is the core role of the mentor, that we have to taken care about the conflict of interest, we have to taken care about the research ethics. We are the only one authority which is responsible to tell the research ethics issues, that do and don'ts, to our students, to our uh, basically the team. Now, what is the peer review? Peer review is nothing but, peer means a peer way, and review. So, peer review has been the principal mechanism by which the quality of the research is judged. So, peer review name is you listen about when you are going to submit a research paper over a Scopus and the SCI Index journal. So, there is a peer review journal that is called. So, peer reviewed means when your research paper is basically judged by more than one reviewer. So we can say it is a peer review process. One is also a term that is called the blind peer review, in which there is more than one reviewers are available to judge your research findings. But in the blind process means the reviewers will not have any idea or does not have any introduction about you. So they do not know about which country the paper is going to upload, from which country the authors belong. So this is called the blind peer review. So most funding decision in science are based on the peer review. So when you are going to submit a project in the SERB and the DST, there is also a peer review process in which more than two reviewers are going to judge your project in terms of fundings, in terms of the social ethics, in terms of the, you can say, social contribution, technical contribution, novelty. So like this way, the peer review process is happening. Further, it involves direct peer review of the candidate's academic career. In short, research and researchers are judged primarily by the peers. Now, this is a case study because the peer review also considered as one of the research ethics issues, so that we have to take in care. So Dr. George Adams receives a manuscript for a ad hoc review from an editor of a scientific journal. So as a faculty, we are always getting a manuscript to review a paper, right? So just like the same thing Dr. George Adams had there. So he receives a manuscript for ad hoc review from the editor of a scientific journal. So what the George is doing, George gives the manuscript to the nonce, his senior postdoctoral fellow. So what the story says, that Dr. George receives one manuscript for the review, and Dr. George gives that manuscript to his postdoctoral fellow. Now Dr. George asks to his postdoctoral that read the manuscript and prepare some written comments. Means you can review the paper like that. So after 1 week later, what the postdoctoral fellow will do? Postdoctoral fellow provides Dr. Adams 1 page of comments after the review. Now, postdoctor also provides Dr. Adams with an extensive verbal critique of the paper. Dr. Adams then prepares a written review which is submitted to the editor of the scientific journal. And basically, Dr. Adams, whatever the comments received by his postdoctoral fellow, upload on its scientific journal site. Now, after a few weeks later, Dr. Adams learns that his postdoctoral fellow made photocopies of the entire literature citation sections of the manuscript because it contains some useful references. So basically, what the postdoctoral fellow is doing, postdoctoral fellow get the manuscript from his mentor. Now, all the literature survey has photocopies because that is some useful references as per his thinking. So Dr. Adams proceeds to verbally instruct a postdoctor fellow, telling him that no part of a manuscript received for review should be copied. So you can see I mentioned this line in a green bubble, that no part of the manuscript received for review should be copied. You can't copy abstract, you can't copy references, you can't copy literature survey, you can't copy his methodology, you can't copy research section, nothing. So whenever the manuscript is coming to you for review, you can give to your postdoctoral fellow. It's either your choice, but it is against the research ethics. You can't do to your students to review the things, but if you are doing, just instruct them that no part of the manuscript received for review should be copied. So that is the case study 1. That is the first rule about the peer reviewed journal, that no part of the manuscript received for review should be copied. Now, this is again a story, that is the case study 2, in which Alana is a medical student researcher in a laboratory of Professor Hayes. So, Professor Hayes has received a manuscript for review for possible publication in a biomedical journal and asked Alana to review the manuscript. Same story, like the professor has received a manuscript, and he asked to his medical student that to review the paper. So Alana knows that the review process is intended to be confidential. So in this case, Alana is having some awareness, right? So Alana already knows that whenever there is a peer reviewed journal having a manuscript to review, so that is totally confidential. So she asked that if the journal editor has been notified of this request. So Alana is somehow very wisdom, and she takes a step by having a word with his mentor that kindly no doubt that a journal editor has been notified of this request, that you are going to provide me to review this manuscript, that kindly notify to the journal editor. Now the professor Hayes says that this is not necessary. Now the professor Hayes is somehow careless, and he says to the Alana, that is the medical student under his, that this is not necessary, kindly review that paper. Now Alana is basically asked for your advice. So what type of advice you will do? As per my suggestion, you will do the advice that Alana should strictly deny to review the paper and ask to the professor Hayes, that is against the research ethics, right? Now, several research responsibility for peer review journals. So, whenever there is a peer reviews, what are the responsibility related to the research ethics? The first one is provide a timely response. It might be a case that a manuscript is coming to you to review within a time span of 30 days or 60 days. Then your responsibility according to the research ethics to provide a timely response within a 20 days, within a 60 days. And if you need some more time, kindly notify to the editor of the journal that you need some more time to to review the manuscript, but kindly respect the time of yours as well as the time of the editor. Now ensure competence as well as avoid biasness, maintain confidentiality. We already discussed in the story as well as a case study that you have to maintain the confidentiality. You could not send the manuscript that is received by you to review to your uh, students. Avoid unfair advantage. You can't copy any part of the manuscript. Offer constructive criticism. So if you are going to provide some uh, you can say valuable suggestion, that provide this in a constructive manner. Now the publication is the most important part, because the research is incomplete until it is not reported. So that's why we are always guiding to our research students that make the publications in their CI journal, scopus, conferences, or the patent. Because if the research is not getting published, and all over the world will not know about the research outcomes, then it will be considered as an incomplete. So it is a very necessary step that if you are doing a research, if you have some outcomes, if you have some experimentation done in your labs, then kindly report your research in a peer reviewed journal. Publication is not merely a matter of credit. So somehow some of the authors says that lot of publications we can do, then lot of you can say scholar citations we will do, our CV will get very good, as well as the list of publications is very high in number, then there will be a hard CV like this way. So publication is not merely a matter of credit. Basically, the publications is about your research findings. So whenever there is an author's number of publications, it's not about to increase only the number. Basically, it is increase about the number of results as well as the number of research outcomes. Third point is there are significant responsibility in publishing. Although errors can occur, authors should endeavor to publish in an accurate, complete, clear, unbiased representation of their work. So this is the most important point. Before publishing the work, your work means the outcome should be accurate, it should be complete, it should be clear, and it should be unbiased representation of their work. There should be a proper background, means a literature survey will be done by you, as well as the significance and the contribution of the work should also be mentioned in terms of the authorship and the credit in the acknowledgement section. Now this is another case study one. These case studies are included such that you can better understand the points. So in this story, there is a one postdoc and his mentor have a co-authored a paper describing their research result. This paper has appeared as an report in a copyrighted monograph. So they have basically copyrighted monograph they have used. One of the figures in this paper is computer generated graph that describe data on a series of bacterial growth curves. The postdoc and mentor presently are preparing a major paper for submission of a peer-reviewed journal. They both agree that the growth curve data in the monograph article are crucial to the story they are telling in the present manuscript. Now, in this story, what happens? A postdoc and his mentor prepared a paper. Now, in this report, there is one copyrighted material figure, right? And they know already that they can't use that the same copyrighted figure in their prepared manuscript. So you can see in the green color, because they are aware of potential copyright violations, they generate the exact same figure using different typeface fonts, different line thickness for the coordinate and abacika. Now, because they can't use that copyrighted figure same in your manuscript, so what they do, they basically regenerate the figure by using some manipulations over there, like changing of the thickness, changing of the some ordinates, changing of the abacika. Now they have decided that since this is not the exact same figure because they have generated by their own, which appeared in their monograph article, the use of it will not constitute a copyright infringement. They also plan to indicate in their manuscript that this figure has been adapted from the initial published in the monograph article. So this is the way you can use the same figure in your manuscript. Like if a paper is published with a figure, sometimes the same figure is used in many of the papers. We need that in order to discuss our problem statement, right? So what you will do, you will have to regenerate that figure by using some modifications over there. But after the modification, you have to cite the original figure also. Kindly don't forget that, because this is only the copy but having some modifications over there. But the original reference you should take the citations from the copyrighted material. Now, what is the research misconduct? As I told you in the previous slides, there are some misconducts like the fabrication of the result. Kindly do not fabricate. Kindly do not falsification. Kindly do not plagiarize your previous work like this way. So this is under the research misconduct. So that we will see. So, what is the research misconduct? Fabrication is making up data or results and recording or reporting them. Falsification is manipulating research materials, equipment, or processes, or changing, omitting data or results such that research is not accurately represented in the research record. Plagiarism is the appropriation of another person's ideas, process, results, or words without giving appropriate credit. So first point is fabrication is making up data or result. So fabrication is basically you are not doing any experiment. You just make your own data in the Excel, generate the graph, and publishing the paper. So like this way is called the fabrication. Now what is a falsification? Falsification means you have generated the data by the experiments, right? By using the machines, by using some simulations, but there is a pressure that you have to find a good results. You are manipulating with the data, so that is called the falsification. Now what is the plagiarism? As you know, plagiarism is when we have to copy, when we have to steal the ideas, process, and the results or words without giving any credit. So that is called the plagiarism. So these are the basically misconduct cases. So you can see in the 2007 there are about 180 new cases for the misconduct. Self plagiarism. There is a difference between plagiarism and self plagiarism. There is a research ethics covered self plagiarism also. So what is the self plagiarism? Sometimes an author publishing the same data in more than one journal, assuming that the data, figures, etc. are same in the both publications. It is not considered research misconduct. This does violate the rules of the most professional journal. So what the author is doing basically, suppose author is making one experiment and some experiment having two or three modules. So three modules experiment have been completed. But when he or she is writing the paper, basically the abstract somehow different, introduction is same, literature survey is same, methodology is somehow different, result section is somehow different, conclusion is somehow different, like this way. But some of the parts and some of the figures are same. So basically this is called the self plagiarism, and some of the journals are not allowed to do the self plagiarism. So basically the question asked by the students to me that about which content we can self plagiarize. So it is considered that up to 15% you can copy paste, and after the 15% you can't do any copy pasting from your own things. But if you are copy pasting, just cite that or give the information in your manuscript that some of the things are taking from this one paper, or just preparing the paper like this way. Now the case study. Two graduate students have made some experiments. Two graduate students have made some measurements on a new material. The data points are as shown. To provide their hypothesis, the result should lie on the curve shown. The two students considered omitting the two data points which were of the theoretical curve. So in this case study, basically they are two graduate students and making some experiment. So in this experiment, suppose there is a line and it is not a proper linear regression line of the machine learning, but somehow it is a, you can say, logistic regression line. So you can see the curve of that line, and some of the data points are lie within nearby of this line, and some 2 points you can see before the x-axis. There are 2 points which are considered as the outliers, right? So what the two graduate student will do, they are basically omitting that two data points because they have to show their results in a very accurate way, in a very good result way. So that's why they are basically manipulating their data, and this is considered in the research ethics of the section fabrication and falsification. Unethical, as it will amount of falsification of the data, should include outliers and give probable results or find out satisfactorily acceptable ways of removing outliers. So it is unethical because it is considered of the research misconduct, that is called the falsification of the data. Also, if you find this type of outliers in an experiment, then it is okay, acceptable. You should include that outliers, but give the justification. And what will be the again next problem statement, that you have to mitigate that outliers in a future research work. Like this way you can do. Now the again case study. A group of medical students conducted a research on the awareness of diabetic diet in a medical clinic participants. Their research was recognized as the best undergraduate research, and later they submitted the same research paper to two different journals to see which journal publishes it first. So it is a very common phenomenon that some of the scholars, some of the MTech students, in a very hurry way, and basically they submit the same research paper to different journals. It's about hit and try, that which journal is making the review first and give the revision, then I will publish the paper in a as far as soon as possible, and I will get the degree. So in that very hardness, by basically the MTech students, sorry, the medical students submitted the same research paper to two different journals. But according to the research ethics, it is unethical because, as per the point mentioned, it is inappropriate weighting of the result of a single study, as well as it distorts the available evidence, and it would give a false idea of the number of publication in a given area. area wasting of researchers, because in the list of publications, suppose they have submitted one research paper to two different journals and both of them are accepting at the same time, right? If they are accepting, then in the list of publications they have mentioned the same title, list of publications. So basically it is a distort the available evidence of the number of publications, as well as it is inappropriate weighting of the results. Should submit to one journal and wait for the response period to submitting to the another. So according to the research ethics, it is advisable that you have to submit your paper to only one journal and keep a patience. Otherwise, if a journal on the other side, if the journal or the conference is taking so much time to review your paper, kindly mail to the editor that what is the status. Now, the case study. Students are required to prepare a research proposal during their undergraduate program. Nimal developed the idea for his project and discussed with a friend. Several months later, he found that his idea had been submitted as a research proposal by his friend without his knowledge. So, it is again the unethical case. Next is four friends decide to work together on a research project during the vacation. One of them went abroad during the vacation and did not contribute to the research. The friends include all four names in a presentation made at a scientific congress. So it is a very common phenomena in a research group. Somehow, some group of 4 to 3 students are there, and out of this three or four, only one or two are working and rest of taking the rest. But when at the last, when there is a paper publishing process are there, all the four names are including. So basically it is unethical, because as per the research ethics, the authors or the persons who have collaborated, who have contributed in the research experimentation work and the research intellectual and the conceptual work, they only considered as a authorship, otherwise not. And also, if you are taking the help from some other students, if you are taking the help from your colleagues, then you have to acknowledge in the acknowledgement section before the references. Now, a group of undergraduate students planned a research project on the detection of fetal abnormalities in the second trimester of the ladies by ultrasound scanning. They collected data from the scan room without informing the mother. So, it is the research ethical misconduct of the first point. What is the first point? Protection of animal and human rights, right? So, it is a medical related research in which they have to scan and they have to basically analyze the detection of fetal abnormalities in the second trimester. So it is basically the trial over the human beings. So the students should get consent from the authority, as well as should get consent from the mothers as well as the healthcare department, because if it is not consent taken care by the group of undergraduate students, this is considered as unethical. So should have informed mothers of their intent, even though there is no particular advantage disadvantage to the mother in doing so. Because if you are taking the human data, their private data, then they have to take the consent from the mothers as well as the authorities. A group of undergraduate students collected data from a group of bank officers. This is another experiment done by the students, that they have collected a data from a group of bank officers, but they are taking consent. That is okay, good part. Regarding their working hours and salary with regard to the prevalence of the high blood pressure. So basically the problem statement is they are collecting three things: their working hours, according to working hours, their salary, and in the relation with working hours and the salary, they have to analysis over the high blood pressure disease. Like if the working hour is high and the salary is high, then what are the chances of high blood pressure, right? If the working hour is less and the salary is high, then what are the chances of high blood pressure? Like this way, the data is collected by the undergraduate students from the bank officer with the consent. That is okay and good thing. Now, subsequently, the researchers gave the same data to another group who were in need of the same data variables. Now, there is a problem. The consent is provided to that students only, but what the undergraduate student will do, they are basically doing the help to another students, and they taking without any consent to the bank employees, they provide the data to some another group who are doing the same research over the same data variable. So it is unethical. Data can be used for a secondary purpose which was not first considered as long as informed consent for sharing has been given, identities anonymized due to consideration to access restrictions. So this is the prime purpose of the company who is giving the data basically. That whenever the consent documentation about the research ethics is made, there should be a restriction over there. Like you cannot share the data to some another person, so there should be some ethical guidelines for the data sharing. So the most common question asked by the students to me that if the data is used by us and not taking any consent, and what about the that data which is publicly available in the platforms like the GitHub or the Kaggle or some another websites? Basically, if you are going to read their copyrighted as well as some use of that open access data, there is some theory section over there, but the normally thing is students or researchers do not read the theory part or the copyrighted consent part. They just download the data and perform some AI machine learning tools over there and get the result and publish the paper. So basically that is unethical. Whenever the data is publicly available, still you have to first read the copyrighted whatever the consent is given to that. So most of the cases you will found the companies or the research teams or some labs are making data available by giving the statement that this data is provided as a public to for the research purpose, but not for the advantages in terms of the publications as well as the intellectual property rights. Right? So kindly make sure that this type of statement is written over there. If it is not written, then you can access the data. Otherwise, you can mail to that contributor, right? Whenever they have publicized their data, that you can access their data and publish your own research paper, publish your own patent or any intellectual property in your own name or not. Otherwise there will be problem. Now, what is the do and don'ts? So first we have to see the do's in the research. First we have to establish the clear objective of the research, because the objective is very much important when you are going to pursue your research. If the objective is clear, then the prototype will be ready very soon. If the prototype is ready, then the problem statement will be made very simplest way, and you can implement your problem statement and perform the experimentation in a good way. Develop a strong support system. So this strong support system means you have to attract the funding, revenue, as well as you have to make the contacts with some organizations, with your colleagues. So strong support system you have to maintain. Effective time management. It's all about the time management. As you see, our real life span is also about the time management, because the life is so much packed with lot of works. So the only possible solution is you have to make the time management. You have to give the time to your personal life, you have to give to time to your professional life, you have to give your time to the spiritual life, you have to give to time to your neighbor life. Whatever it is nothing but the time management only. The fourth one is regularly review and revise. So what is the review means? Basically, when we are writing one paper, it might be a chance that lot of mistake we have do. Like the same way, if you are doing a research experiment, it might be a chance that at some point we are doing some mistakes. So if we are reviewing the things regularly, then will be a lack of chances that there will be a mistake, as well as our review system will give the feedback to ourselves also, right? Invest in literature review. So kindly go to the IEEE transactions, Springer journals, and take the literature review of your area of research, such that you can better identify the gaps as well as what is the hot topic is now going on in your research area, that you will get to know, and what are the other things you can include in your current going research, that you will get to know when you are invest the time in the literature review. Embrace collaboration. As per the revenue generation as well as the collaboration to the society, you need to collaboration to the academia partners as well as industry partners, as well as some innovative ideas, some startups you can participate like this way. Prioritize self-care. Obviously it is some personal part, so I will not discuss over there. So the things what you can't do or you should not do in the research. The first one is avoid procrastination. Tackle tasks systematically to prevent procrastination from hindering your progress. Don't neglect documentation. Because as you know, as per the case study, there are so many cases you see, case study 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These all things are happened because there is no documentation proper. So kindly do the documentation as much you as you can. So don't neglect documentation. Don't isolate yourself, because research is basically a group part. You can't do a research by your own self alone, because it is a very hectic thing. Documentation, problem statement, experimentation, coding, technical, conceptual, intellectual, so many things are there. So be prepared in a team, it will be good for you. So can't don't isolate yourself. Avoid overcommitting. Remember your commitments, understanding that quality trumps quantity in research advance. So kindly do not overcommitting. Basically in the research proposals projects we have submitting in the funding agencies like SERB and DST and so many, we are somehow committing over commitments, like our project will do this one, this one, this one. Kindly do not this one, because there will be a chances your project will be rejected. Whatever the thing is, to the point you have to mention that your project will going to achieve this one, this one, this one goals. That's it. Don't disregard feedback. If somebody is going to provide the feedback, like the review peer reviewers are going to provide the feedback, kindly take this feedback as a positive way to include, to pursue your research, to improvise your research. Steer clear of redundancy. So kindly do not make the redundancy of the figures, as well as do not plagiarize your own works. So redundancy kindly do not maintain. Be with the novelty, such that your paper will be get published in a very good and more accurate way. Avoid ethical lapses. Uphold the highest ethical standards to safeguard your academic reputation and the future career. So we have to avoid the ethical lapses only, because if you are upholding the highest ethical standards, then reputation and the future career will be going to in your hand. Now, list of research misconducts. There are so many examples are there. The first one is Ayong Mang, Romania, a computer scientist at the University of Odessa, plagiarized a paper by the cryptographer Eli Biham, Dean of Computer Science, Department of Technonian Israel. He was accused of extensive plagiarism in at least 8 of his academic papers. So this is the case in which one of the author is basically plagiarized in his academic papers, and the number of papers are at least 8. More than 8 papers they have plagiarized the contents. So this is the one example of research misconduct. So there is also references I have cited, so you can go to that references also. There is a Wikipedia link over there, and you can see the whole story. Second is Danet Marcu, Romania, a mathematical and computer scientist, was banned from publishing in several journals due to plagiarism. He had submitting a manuscript for publication that was a word for word copy of a published paper written by another author. So what this author do? Basically, this author taking a reference of some another paper which is published by some another author, and basically word by word copy he is doing. So the only common thing you can have in your mind, that what about the plagiarism percentage? If it is a word for word copy of the published paper, then there should be plagiarism over there. So how can you submit that to peer review journal? Because in the peer review journal, before the review, they have checked the plagiarism. Actually, this word for word copy is nothing but they are using some word replacement, like the same way is doing so many AI tools. They can changing the word, and they can copy the word, but the word will getting the basically they use synonyms in order to do that. So by using the synonyms, the plagiarism will not be there, right? The plagiarism percentage will not be there, but basically when there is a meaningful, when there is a matching of meaning, it is a one-to-one match over there. So it is a high plagiarism when it is considered in a research ethical standard. Now, in 2012, IEEE posted Notice of Violation of IEEE Publication Principles regarding a paper by Maruf Monwar at the University of Northern British Columbia, received PhD from the University of Calgary, Canada, 2012. Dr. Walker Haki professor of computer science and business school at the University of Northern British Columbia, Canada, and Paul PP at University of Raj Rajshahi. The paper contains significant portion of original text from three papers by others, was copied with insufficient attribution, include appropriate references to the original authors and paper title, and without permission. Due to the nature of this violation, reasonable effort should be made to remove all past references to this paper and future references should be made to the following articles. So the whole story of this plagiarism result you can see over there. So in this basically they have copied the things and basically insufficient contribution was there and the basically the first copy of the paper along with the result is basically doing in the current copy, so it is a basically violation of the IEEE publication principles. Now the last one case. The last one case is Tao Li, a computer science professor at the University of Florida, was accused of fabricating result and pushing his PhD student Zhen to keep pursuing a paper with false results at ICA 2019. So ICA 2019 is the conference, right? So what the story says that there is a one computer science professor at the University of Florida basically fabricate the result. What is the fabrication means? Fabrication means what is that? The results are generated from the experiment, from the coding, from the simulation, but because you are not getting the inaccurate, you are not getting the accurate and good results, you are basically omitting some values over there, or you are manipulating with the data in order to get the good result. So that's called the fabrication. So basically they fabricate the result and basically they are pressurized to his PhD student. PhD student name is Shen, and to pursue the paper with a false result at ICA 2019 conference. So there's so much pressure from the guy to the student over there. So what the Mr. Shen will do, Mr. Shen committed suicide. So this type of pressure will not sustain by Mr. Shen and they will commit suicide. And ACMI and IEEE found Professor Lee guilty of pressuring him after a 2-year investigation. So you can say after 2 years, the investigation has to be maintained over there. And after the 2-year investigation, basically Professor Lee found to be guilty by the ACM and IEEE, and murder charges is also be there. Then University of Florida forced Professor Lee to retire from the university. Basically, he expelled after the investigation by IEEE and ACM. So this type of famous cases of list of research misconducts. There are only 4 to 5 cases I have mentioned, but there are so many cases there for the research misconduct. So kindly follow the research ethics when you are going to formulate your result, when you are pursuing your result. To ensure accuracy of scientific knowledge should be methodologically rigorous. Scientific validity. So what is the scientific validity? Basically there are some problem statement like diabetes prediction, heart disease prediction. We in the current nowadays, by using the machine learning, deep learning, so many problem statements are there, like the cancer detection, breast cancer detection, malignant or benign, or as well as diabetes detection, heart disease detection. So many things are there, right? But this is not the scientific valid cases. Basically you are getting the data from somewhere, you are applying the machine learning and deep learning, and you are predicting over there, and somebody is going to provide your data to you, and according to your model you are providing the details that okay, you are suffering from heart disease, or this is a probable of chance you get a brain stroke like this way. So this is not the scientific valid, it is basically the AI valued only, because your machine learning models is provide you the accuracy of 99.99%. Your model is going to predict the things in a very accurate way. But basically, when it is scientific valid, when there is a human trial is going to be implemented. And for the human trial, you need consent from the healthcare department, as well as you have to protect the animal and copyrights, animal and human copyrights. So your methodology should be scientific valid, otherwise your research should be incomplete in that way. Only just apply the AI tools and publish the paper does not mean you are pursuing the research or you are completed your research. No, it should be scientifically valid. Fair subject selection with inclusion exclusion criteria, a valid number of subjects in order to project results to the population. Like the fair subject selection can be seen as one of the drug discovery. Okay. In the drug discovery, basically, we are again manipulating the things by using the AI tools, machine learning, deep learning over there, and we are basically discover the drug structure, like for particular disease this is the drug structure provided by our machine learning model and the accuracy is 99.99%. But what is basically we have to project the result to the population also, like if the drug discovery is by making your AI models, and after the trial when the medicine is basically developed and going to be hauled over the human trials, then it will be scientifically valid, otherwise not. Now, state research method clearly so that another person can conduct advanced study in future by using the publications. That why it is recommended that in the research paper you have to mention the conclusion along with the future scope, such that you have to state your research method clearly in the methodology section. Otherwise, in the future scope another person can conduct the advanced study in future by using the publications. Now, the point is it ethical to copy the methodology from a published paper? So, somebody can say, no, it is not ethical to copy the methodology from a published paper. Somebody can say, yes, yeah, it is ethical to copy the methodology from a published paper, but we have to mention the citation. Okay. And somebody can say, may or may not be. Sometimes we need the methodology because we have to explain our current methodology, and there is some connection between the methodology previously published by some another author to our existing methodology. So, what will be the most accurate answer? Which will be the answer? Basically, the answer can be yes, can be no, but actually, the more accurate answer can be ethical when you are doing in the way of ethical manner. Then it will be okay. So, what will be the ethical manner? Ethical manner is you can include the methodology by using the citation, okay, but the thing is in the methodology part 70% of your data, 70% of your methodology by your own contribution, right? Only 5 to 10% you can take, remaining that because 10% of the literature survey, and the remaining that you have to use by your own method. Okay, 70 to 80%. Recommended is about 70%. You have to use your own methodology by citation to the previous methodology. So this way you can do the ethical manner of copy the methodology from a published paper. Cite the methodology also in the reference section, and also if needed you can mail, you can communicate to the author as well as that you are including the methodology of your paper. I need some consent, as well as in the acknowledgement section you can mention the name of that author, that methodology is taken from the portion of the methodology is taken from this one paper, so I'm taking acknowledgement and thanks, like this way. If it is, then it is ethical, otherwise not. So do not gloss research method. So sometimes students are glossing the research method that is already published by some another authors, like equations. So some equations they have changed the variables. Like if the person is using X, so the current student is using Y. So you are glossifying the research methods such that the plagiarism will not be there, but actually it is against the research ethics. Should not falsify, modify, omit data. That thing I already shared with you. Use actual data for analysis, cannot include someone else's data. So, what is the actual data basically? Actual data from the experiment, from the simulation, you can generate the data. Like if you are going to predict the diabetes detection by using the machine learning model, then go to the laboratory, go to the some pathology, take some consent, take some diabetic data, and do the research over there. So this is the actual data. Do not include someone else data that is already included in the Kaggle and you can say the GitHub. Report errors. If there is an error over there, like you are basically experiment some research methods over there, and some of the variables provide you some error, so there is no issue that you can report the error in your manuscript also. You are getting good results, okay. If your some variables are providing you the error, then you can in the detailed analysis you can justify the errors, that like this way the errors is happening and we are going to explore this error, we are going to minimize this error in our future work. Be aware of conflict of interest. So again there is a authorship problem, there is a conflict of interest can be occur, like the responsibility and the amount of contribution can be different to different authors. So be aware about the conflict of interest. Basically do the documentation before writing the paper, before publishing the paper, that this one will be the first author, this one will be second, this one will be third, and there is a no conflict of interest. So in the nearby scenario, when you are going to publish, when you are going to submit a paper in a peer review journal, they are also asking you some another document or some other statements, like there is a no animal or human involved in your experimentation. If there is an involvement of animal and human being experimentation, then there is a consent you have already taken out. Second one is conflict of interest, all the authors having no conflict of interest. And third one is funding, that collaboration funding, like this way. And author contribution, what the author is doing, what. So these type of additional statement, now the peer review journal are going to invest the time in the manuscript. Should not withhold or vaguing up the information. So kindly dictate the things that you have the experiment done in your lab. Kindly do not withhold some information. Do some more analysis. When there is a limitation of the paper, then try to tell the things in a more simulated way. Keep data and material for 5 years. Also, if you have a data, then keep the data and the material for 5 years, because there might be a chance that some of the authors have some issue regarding you and some misconduct cases will be aligned to you. Then what will you do? You have to prove the authenticity and the integrity of your research experiment. Then this is will be act as a proof. So that's why you have to keep the data and the material for at least 5 years, because we are asked to the students to do the literature survey of the last 5 years, right? So before the 5 years, the research value is getting decremented because this is the outdated work. But related 5 years of the research papers is the more valuable and the more readable papers, downloaded papers done by the research scholars as well as the scientists. Data and material should be available to others. So in the peer review journals, there is a one section that is called the supplementary material, right? So in the supplementary material, you can upload your data to check. You can upload your material and the coding statements, right? So this is the chances you can get accept your paper in a very rapid way. If you provide the data, if you provide the material, if you are provide all the things that a peer review journal wants, then there is a high chance to get your paper published, because you are follow all of the research ethics. So there is no doubt of point will be taken care by the reviewers or editors or the peer review journal. Do not present published paper from incomplete research or from anticipated outcomes. So what is the thing over there? Might be some cases that in the conference paper there is a limitation of 6 papers. So what the research scholars as well as some scientists will do, so some scientists basically the one module is completed and we are going to publish in our research paper in the conference, then it is okay, there is a no problem. Here the meaning of the statement is do not present published paper from an incomplete research. So if your module is completed, then it is okay. If your module is not completed, then it is not okay. Your module should be completed. What is a module basically? Module is nothing but when you are going to implement a problem statement, your problem statement is going to taken care by in terms of module number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like in terms of the coding functions. So if your one function is completed, one target is completed, and the result in your hand, then you can publish the paper. But if the module 1 is not completed, right, suppose the module 1 parameter is like in the networking that I am current doing research, what are the parameters? The parameter is throughput, delay, jitter management, traffic choking. Okay, like 4 parameters we have. Among of 4 I can simulate any 2, So it is considered is a incomplete research, because in my target there are 4 to 5 parameters, but instead of 4 to 5 parameters I have just targeted over 2. It might be a chance that out of this 5, these 2 parameters I'm getting the things, and rest of the 3 will get not good results. So it is not a complete research. Should not duplicate publications and submissions. What is the uh, meaning of that statement? Duplicate publications. Basically, some of the authors cite their work in their CV, one publication. Same paper they have uploaded in different libraries. There are so many public available libraries are there, and when you upload your same paper in a public library, they are giving you the citations. So, like if I am having one paper published in a Springer, right? That same paper I have uploaded into 5 different open access libraries. So I have 5 different library citations also. One my original citation. So 6 citations I have, and 6 citations I have included in my CV. So that is called the duplicate publications. And submissions also. Avoid pessimistic publication, piecemeal, sorry, piecemeal publication. So what is the piecemeal publication basically? Piece means a broken thing, and a meal is a complete food. Piecemeal publication means once your module is completed, so itself it will taken as a food, right? So if your piecemeal publication is over there, so you have to avoid that piecemeal publication. If your meal is not completed, right? If your meal is completed, like module 1 is completed, then you can do the publication. Basically, this third statement is connected to the first one. Should be received independently by unaffiliated individual. So, what is the meaning of that? Should be reviewed independently by unaffiliated individuals. So, you can discuss your research ideas, you can take the reviews of your research papers, but it should not be unaffiliated to the individual. So, scientific misconduct. So there is some research misconduct over there that we are already talked. This is a scientific misconduct. So scientific misconduct is first one fraud, invention and fabrication of data. Second one is plagiarism, copying ideas, data, text without acknowledgement of the source. If you are going to copy some text, ideas, and the figures, you have to acknowledge and cite that source. Piracy, infringement of a copyright. So if what is that piracy? If you are going to use or download the same data set from a Kaggle or a GitHub without taking any consent from the author, if it is a public access data, okay, but it is an infringement of a copyright if you are use that data in your research publication and you are going to take another intellectual property right in for your own benefit. So that is comes under the piracy. Then submitting publishing the same paper to different journals. Again, I already discussed this thing, so I will not discuss again. Not informing a collaborator of your intent to file a patent in order to make sure that you are the sole inventor. So suppose you have published one research paper. In the research paper there is one algo that you want to patent, right? In the research paper, you have 4 authors. You are the first author, and remaining 3 is in your research team. Now, the idea is in your mind that you have to file a patent from your research publication. Okay, so for the patent, you have to patent your algorithm. So, you are not informing to your collaborator, means your research team, and you are filing a patent as a sole inventor. So, this is considered as a scientific misconduct. Why? Because in the previous publication, whatever it is a Scopus, a conference, or a SCI journal, all of the 4 authors you are giving the credit to the collaborator and the contribution as a paper. Now the algorithm of that paper you are going to patent without having any knowledge to the collaborator or the contribution to the another research team. So it is considered as a scientific misconduct. You have to acknowledge that, you have to give take consent from that, otherwise you can include them also as a other inventors, co-inventors. Including a colleague as an author on a paper in return for a favor even though the colleague did not make a serious contribution to the paper. So this is very casual thing nowadays that I will give you the authorship in my paper, and on the behalf of that you have to give myself as an author in your paper. So in this way your list of publications and my list of publications can also increase one by one. So this is scientific misconduct. According to the research ethics, if a person do not make any contribution, do not take any responsibility, do not make any credit to the research experimentation, research writing, in intellectual and conceptual thing, then that person could not be considered as an author. Whatever it is, your colleague, he and she is your husband or wife, he and she is your wife, your friend, or whatever it is. Trimming outliers from a data set without discussing your research paper. So it is a very common thing nowadays. What the students are doing in the machine learning model, in the deep learning, there are so many outliers can be present, because whatever the equations you are mathematically set, some of the data set values are not fitting that perfectly, and that is termed as outliers. And outliers are basically nothing but increase your error, so your accuracy is getting decreased. So what they will do from the data set, they will just skip that outliers in order to get the good results. So kindly do not trimming the outliers from your data set. Basically you have to discuss in your research paper with a proper reason that why you are getting these outliers. Using an inappropriate statistical technique in order to enhance the significance of your research. So, what is that inappropriate statistical technique in order to enhance the significance of your research? Basically, some of the person making the statements, like if your paper having lot of mathematics, then there is a high chance of getting published in a SCI paper or transactions. So, this is known as inappropriate statistical technique, right? So if your experimental results having some mathematical analysis or having the mathematical proofs, then it is okay. If it is not, and still you are engaging some mathematical proofs or equations, because only the thinking is when you are going to implement or include some mathematical heavy equations, then the chances of the paper your publications and acceptance of your paper will be high. So it is against the research ethics. It is the basically the usage of inappropriate statistical techniques in order to enhance the significance of your research. So kindly do not do that. Bypassing the peer review process and announcing your results though a press conference without giving peers adequate information to review your work. So basically the statement is somehow when we are doing one research, so module 1 results are completed and we are just publish the paper in a conference, and after enhancing the module 1, after some time, suppose after the review, I have enhancing the results of module 1, and the same paper I have written and going to submit in a peer review journal, but I do not mention that the part of that module 1 is also published in a press conference, and that thing I have added to the peer reviewed reviews. So that thing also scientific misconduct. So that's why if you are going to submit a paper in IEEE transactions, there are so many statements on there that part of the paper is submitted somewhere or not, part of the paper is already published or not, part of the paper is already prepared by or not. Like this way so many statements are there, because it is under the research ethics. If you are not following this, you are doing scientific misconduct. Now, conducting a review of the literature that fails to acknowledge contributions of the others. If you are doing the literature review and you are not acknowledge the contributions of the others, like if you are not doing the citations in the reference sections and you are just using the theory of that papers, so that is again the scientific misconduct. Whatever you are review the literature in order to make the problem statement, you have to acknowledge in the citation, as well as you can acknowledge optionally in the acknowledgement section. Stretching the truth on a grant application in order to convince reviewers that your project will make a significant contribution to the field. Now, somehow we are stretching the truth. Truth is truth is that one that my machine learning model have an accuracy of 96%. Suppose for a diabetes prediction, my machine learning model is giving the accuracy of 96%. Okay, but Because of making a scientific and significant contribution to the field, I am mentioning and stretching the truth that my module can jump into the 99.99% in order to make the diabetes prediction of a particular person, because I want to grant application of my project in a particular agency. So kindly do not stretching the truth. Whatever the truth is there, kindly mention only that. Giving the same research project to two graduate students in order to see who can do it fastest. So somehow some of the persons, what they do in order to increase the list of publication, they are giving the same problem statement to two graduate students, because they have think that two graduate student teams, they have do the simulations, they will give the some research outputs over there, as well as there is some competition will be there in the graduate students, that who can do the fastest. So kindly do not do one problem statement should be given to only one graduate student only. Overworking, neglecting, or exploiting research students. So this is nothing but mentoring research ethics, under the category of mentoring of the research ethics. So overworking, kindly do not force to your research scholars or the project students that do overworking, pressuring. Kindly do not neglect, kindly listen their problems, whatever the research limitations they have faced, what are the hurdles they have faced in order to pursue the research, or exploiting the research students. Kindly do not exploit. Like some of the cases I have seen so many things in my life, like in some of the organization, in order to pursue or in order to complete the PhD, to SCI journals are mandatory. If a particular student is completed and published two SCI papers, still his or her mentor is not allowed to give the degree to him or her, because he or she wants that if the student will file a patent, then only I will sign the thesis. So this type of things will not do. Kindly do not exploit your research student as per as the documentation rule, as per as your academia rule. If the research student is satisfying all the criteria, kindly contribute them, kindly uh, enhance their knowledge. So making derogatory comments and personal attacks in your review of author submission. So suppose if you get a paper, right, for review, like so many Dr. Hayes example in the case study we have listened. So kindly do not make the derogatory comments and personal attacks. It doesn't matter if their research is not up to the level, if their research findings are not up to the level. So you can mention that the novelty is not there or something. You can make a proper scientific or technical writing documents and comments you can maintain. But kindly do not make derogatory comments or personal attacks over there. Like some of the example is, this is a type of conference type of submission paper, so this is a very personal attack, right? So this type of thing will not be there. Making significant deviations from the research protocol approved by the review board without informing the committee. So what the meaning of that statement? Making significant deviations from the research protocol approved by the review board. So whatever the documentation you have maintained in according to the research ethics, that should be reference from the research protocol approved by the review board, because every academia, every industry, they have a research protocols review board over there, and you have to first inform the committee if you are going to change or append something over there. So kindly do that in a proper way. Not reporting an adverse event in a human research experiment, like the same example I am taking in the what is that, Mm, human research experiment, like the fatal abnormalities case study, as well as one bank of visa data. So we have to take the consent. Wasting animals in the research. So the first ethical statement is, again, we have to protect the animals and the human rights, so kindly do not waste the animals in the research process. Exposing the students and staff to biological risk. Kindly do not pressurize if you are doing the medical related type of research. So kindly do not pressurize to the staff and students to take the biological risk and perform the biological experiment in by your own self. So like this way, kindly do not do that, because it is against the scientific ethics. rejecting a manuscript for publication without even reading it. So sometimes when a manuscript is coming into our account to review, and they have see the manuscript, if the manuscript had a lot of mathematics, good graphs, then we just accept the paper without reading it. Or vice versa, if the manuscript has no any good graphs or a mathematical equations, then we are not reading and just reject the paper because it is not up to the level, there is no mathematical proof, there is no any graphical results like this way. So this type of thing, kindly do not do that. First, kindly read the manuscript properly. It might be possible that in the table they have provide their results. Sometimes the graphs is not mandatory, only tableau results are there for the comparison of different things. Some experiments do not need any mathematical proof. Some of the research having some mathematical proof. If you are feeling so that your research should be some mathematical proofs, then do the comment, but kindly don't reject without even reading it. So this is how about the session about some more things that I want to introduce over there, that research ethics regarding to the intellectual property rights, IPR law. So IPR law of the India is mentioned in the link also. Like here, so many IPR laws I have mentioned. Scientific misconduct. Also here, I have referenced one link here. This is a PDF. You can see. Here is also one another link. You can see all the things, whatever I have depicted in my PPT. I have taken out from these links and the that references also. Also, what are the AI tools when we are going to judge the research ethics over there? Like, suppose if I want to check the plagiarism of the paper. So there is a one more famous tool that is Turnitin, as well as some Urkund software is there. Also, in the Urkund and Turnitin software, there is a some manipulation you can do, right? The manipulation can be you can uncheck some of the references. So if you are unchecking that references and provide the plagiarism report to the higher authority or the supervisor after unchecking that references, so that is also against the research ethics. So according to the research ethics, whatever the software they have made for their in order to judge the plagiarism, you have to use in their own way, right? You cannot manipulate the things like unchecking of some of the references, or instead of 3 you are checking the word by 6, right? So if the bunch of 6 are you using the citations, or you can say it's not the citation, the word matching probability will get less and your paper will give you the less plagiarism. Or also there is some research ethics misconduct cases in terms of the plagiarism, like in the Turnitin, when you are going to upload the paper, right? So some of the students, what they will do, suppose if the paper has 10 pages, right? So out of that 10 pages, 5 pages they have making the snapshot including the text also. So what the plagiarism software basically checks word by word, right? Not the whole image. So if they are taking the snapshot, obviously that snapshot is a unique and that will not be considered as a plagiarism in the plagiarism calculator. But it is against the research ethics, because out of 10, 5 pages are snapshot created by the students. So content of that 5 snapshot, it is text, but it is not checked by the plagiarism because you have manipulated the results of the Turnitin software. Also, what is the software nowadays that is used to generate automated text? OpenG ChatGPT. Yes, in the ChatGPT, most of the students ChatGPT have used in order to write the paper nowadays. All of the theses, all of the conference papers, SAI papers, whatever the things they have used ChatGPT. So I'm very happy to inform you. I'm very pleased to inform you that the peer-reviewed journals, I don't know about the conferences, but the peer review journal, and yes, conference is the outside India. Whenever there is a conference of the US, Canada, whatever it is, outside the India, as well as the peer review journal, they have a tool to identify that your contents in your manuscript is AI generated or not. Okay, so it is a very good thing, and I am very happy to announce that there is a tool available over there. I do not know about the tool because they have used by their own privacy, and they do not discuss about the tool information, but they have some software, so they can scan your paper and they can set that how much of your text is AI generated. So some of the cases happen with me about 5 to 6 days earlier. One of my student itself, they have make one conference paper, right? So in the conference paper, they have submitted of say 7 pages. So I submitted that conference paper in a one conference that is going to held in a London, UK. So when I submit the paper, because in my plagiarism software Turnitin, they have just give me the plagiarism only 5%. So I was happy that the student is not do any plagiarism over there. So I said just submit the paper. So when I submit the paper over that London conference, so after the 5 to 6 days, they have mailed me that the paper you have uploaded is this percentage, about 80% of the content is AI generated. So this is how means the software is also available, that you are going to generate your text by using AI. So this is also very ethical, because you are not going to explain your research experimentation by your own way. You are taking the help of AI tools over there. This is not like the same way manipulating your results, right? So that's why kindly do not do that. You can use AI tool in some extent, like 10 to 15% you can use, but else try to write your paper by their own way. So it is good for your mental health as well as your hand health also. Also, some of the AI things that I want to discuss in the research ethics is like the patent system. So in the patent system, what they have to do in the patent, whenever there is an algorithm, we have to make a patent. We just make the equations and change the equations by changing the variable only. And some of the authors, they have used some AI tools like chat gpt to generate the content of the patent in a unique way. Like the equations, the mathematical equations can be written in different numerical formats. So they have used chat gpt or some other AI tools to exactly generate the same equations in a different way, right? Like one equation, x equal to x minus 2, can be written in 4 steps. Like you can use some more variables, and when you are submitting it, and it will cancel out with each other, then x equal to x minus 2 will be coming out. So like this way, kindly do not do that, because IPR laws are very strict. They will scan your result and they will judge that this is a AI generated. So you can use, but not in an accident way. So I think it's about 12:20 in my clock. So 10 minutes for the discussion. If you have any doubts regarding that, you can ask me.
Yes, that,
Those who have raised their hands can ask the questions. I've given the access.
Okay, in the comment, I can see Dr. Ravindra Jojekar. What is the conflict of interest? So, sir, conflict of interest is basically when there is a author details you are mentioning in your paper. Like first author is you. Suppose Dr. Ravindra is the first author, and there is another second author, and that is me itself, right? So, I having a conflict of interest that I should be the first author. Okay, so I deserved to be myself as a first author. So I have a conflict of interest. That you are interested in a first author, I have a conflict of that. So basically, the authors are not basically uh, not basically come to the point that okay with it that you are the first author and you are the second author. So that is comes under the conflict of interest. So in the peer review journal, you are mentioning the term conflict of interest, that all the authors know not having any single conflict of interest, like that's way. And Pradanya Kamli madam, if paraphrasing is done of AI content, does it count as a flag? Can you explain it in a more detail, Pradanya madam, what you are trying to ask? You are paraphrasing of AI content itself or a content itself. Because content and AI content is a different thing. Paraphrasing of AI generated content. Ma'am, as I told you that 15% you can allow, but if you are going to submit in a peer reviewed SCI journal, so they have a software, they can relate your AI generated content. And they will tell you that your content is highly generated by the AI tools and they will reject the paper without review. So I do not know that all of the peer review journals are taking that software or not. But yes, as per the my experience that I told you in the conference of the UK, they are using. So 10%, 10 to 15% is allowed. Rest, the thing is you have to write by your own self. That is recommended. Any other doubts? Okay. One of the session, one student asked me this one thing, that how can we judge that a particular journal is a valid or not? That is again the research ethics, right? And we have to maintain the authenticity of the journal also before we have to submit the paper, right? So there is a one link. That link is called WebSCI is called Web Scopus. So under this Web Scopus, if you are going to paste the journal name of the journal, then it will give you all the details. So if the journal is listed under this Web Scopus link, then you can maintain, you can check the authenticity of a journal. If your journal is not there, then kindly do not submit the paper over there.
कोई फेस्टिवल होता है सबसे नेटिव डिश बना लेते हैं फिर एक कभी हम या फिर कभी ना हम जेंट्स वालों को मीटिंग करते हैं उनको बैठ वो बोलता है एक दिन में खाना आज साथ बनाओ तो एक दिन में खाना रहता है तो वहाँ पे सब जेंट्स बैठ जाते हैं लड़कियाँ यहाँ बैठती तो एक पार्टीशन प्राइवेसी भी हो जाती है ना अगर ये पूरा खुला रहेगा सब जब एक ही रूम में बैठे कमरे में बैठेंगे तो ऐसे
Any further questions?
there's a link of for checking that. Now taking care of.
Okay. So we have come to an end of the session. Ethics has been there in almost every field, but still gets overshadows most of the time. Thank you, ma'am, for putting some light on the topic. Your easy explanation and learning with the help of case studies and examples made it look easier and more doable. Thank you for the time, ma'am. I request all the participants to give the feedback and give the attendance. And here's the last session. So I welcome. I'm here with the immense gratitude and a heart full of appreciation as we come to the conclusion of our 5 days online short-term training program. It has been an enriching journey filled with learnings and growth. First and foremost, I would like to extend our deepest thanks to our esteemed guest. Your dedication expertise, and passion have been instrumental in shaping this program into a resounding
Sir, can you
success.
check the submitted
I would
charges?
also like to express our gratitude to all the participants who have dedicated their time, energy, and enthusiasm to engage with the content and contribute to the meaningful discussion. A heartfelt thank you goes to the organizing committee behind the scenes who work tirelessly to ensure smooth execution of this program. Last but not the least, I would like to thank you, our patrons. Without them, the program would not have seen the light of the day. Our respected chairman, vice chairman, director sir, Dr. D.T. Ingole sir, our vice principal sir, Dr. Mohammad Zar sir. Special thanks to Dr. A.B. Gadija sir, head of the Department Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. As we conclude, let us carry forward the lessons learned, the connections made, and the memories shared. May we continue to apply the insight gained to our personal and professional lives and making positive impact in our respective field. Wishing you all the continued success and fulfillment in our endeavors. Thank you so much, everyone. The certifications, the details of the certifications will be in the group. I would like all to please check the group. And tomorrow there will not be any session. From 11 to 5, there will be the link open for the quiz. I would like everyone to welcome for the quiz. Thank you, everyone.
इसके screenshots भी डाल दो। We will end the this link now. Thank you all for the participation. Thank you, everyone.